So once again, good afternoon. I'm just glad that this lesson in Fundamentals of ABM 1, our second lesson, is not unfamiliar to us. Why? You've been doing this even in business finance. From your applied economics class last school year to the activities that we had in business finance, you had this share of doing books of accounts, which of course begins with the journal. The general journal is actually what you tried to create for the many activities that we had in this subject. What you've been trying to create is what you refer to as the general journal. We just probably modified it because, of course, when you had exams, when you had your quizzes, it's impractical. I don't know about the way I see it. It's impractical for me to demand that you should follow the strict format of the general journal because it's really going to take so much of your time. However, it's also perhaps fortunate that as of this practice, this year's practice, this time's practice, there are already available journal notebooks. Meaning you can actually use these notebooks in doing the journal entries. But it's just that the case is we are not facing each other personally. We can only just look at each other using Zoom. So we can rely on the online platform. But then again, the way I see it, what's really important here is you are going to be able to know how to use that journal, that kind of journal, or how to put it into practice. To start, we have the general journal. There are a lot of columns that you can find in the general journal. I hope you are looking at the module right now. The first column is the date. You have a column for account, titles, and explanation. Do not be surprised if the second column can be labeled as particulars. There are other journals that label the second column as particulars, like particular with an S. The word particulars pertains to account titles and explanations. So in lieu of account titles and explanations, the word particulars can be used. But I think the modern practice now is that's to really use account titles and explanations. On the third column, you'll find there the word ref, which represents reference. This column is used when the journal entries are transferred to ledger accounts. This column will tell whoever is the reader of the journal to where will tell the information on where in the ledger that particular account title is located, or that transaction is located, where the transaction is located in the ledger, or that account title is located in the ledger. Then you have the debit column and the credit column. Assets, debit, credit, where are they normally balanced? Debit, credit, assets.
Debit.
Debit, correct. What about liabilities? Debit, credit. Normal balance is?
Credit.
Credit, correct. Owner's equity, capital. Debit, credit, Nathan.
Credit.
Credit. Service revenue, Nathan. Debit, credit.
Credit.
Credit. Sales, Nicole. Debit, credit.
Credit.
Credit. Withdrawals, Nathan. Debit, credit.
Debit.
Debit. Expenses, debit, credit, Nicole.
Debit.
So these are the normal balances. Take note how we are referring to normal balances. So a normal balance, again, is where that particular account title is supposedly increased. Like cash. Cash has a normal balance of debit. To increase cash, you will debit cash. To decrease cash, what will you do, Nathan?
Credit it.
You credit it, correct. Accounts payable or loans payable or notes payable. As said, they have a credit normal balance. To increase them, you credit the value. To decrease accounts payable, you put that value on debit. So these are the ways. Accounts receivable. Accounts receivable has a natural balance, a normal balance of debit. To reduce accounts receivable, meaning a portion of the collectible has already been received, you will credit accounts receivable. So always remind yourselves of the normal balances, and the attempt to reduce them means putting that value on the opposite side. So you have the journalizing process. You have there an example. Can you see the example there with Mr. Ben Mabait? You have Mr. Ben Mabait. Ben Mabait.
Sir.
So on
Yes.
September 1, 2015, Mr. Ben Mabait invested 500,000 in a restaurant business by opening an account with Superbank. So you'll find there a debit of cash and a credit of Mabait Capital. By the way, what you'll see there is B Mabait Capital. But in our exams, let's agree among ourselves in our exams, we will just use the family name. Just the family name. No initial of the first name, just the family name. And then, one thing with this example is look at the placement of 500,000 on the credit value, credit
Aligned.
column. It's aligned with the debit
Debit and
value.
credit value.
Diba? You look at the placement. Uh, Let me point at this. I'm referring to this, oh. I'm referring to this.
Yes, sir.
They are just found on the same line. But what is our practice? What is our practice? Will we put them on the same line?
Same
No.
line ng credit to
Another line, correct.
debit.
So,
No, sir.
500,000 is aligned with cash.
Nad
The other 500,000 will be aligned with
Credit.
Mabait Capital. So let's stick to that practice. Let's stick to your practice because that practice is actually more appropriate. And then you could find there an infinitive phrase that presents an explanation. I think this is what you did in business finance last time. No, in applied econ. Diba? You provided
yeah.
an explanation
Yes, sir.
in infinitive form.
Yes, sir.
Like again, going back to September 1 transaction, Mr. Ben Mabait invested 500,000. So what is the explanation? To record investment of Mr. Ben Mabait or Ben Mabait. However, in your exams, for the purpose of exams, again to make it clear, this is in our practice only, in the practice of our class. For the purpose of an exam, I'd allow you to use the octothorpe, the hashtag sign. Why? I would not
Wala
want
nang explanation, sir.
Yes, it's all right. It's all right. In our exams, in our QE, it's all right. But of course, when it's going to be asked from you, you should be ready for what explanation to provide.
Kasi,
Always be ready. Why am I allowing you to use the octothorpe? It's because I do not want to even if it's just a mere writing of a phrase, that already takes time because perhaps it will still invite you to critically think again, what is this about? And that is the amount of time could have been used for another transaction to be journalized, diba? But again, always remind yourself of what the transaction was originally about. What the intention is of that transaction. That's the explanation. For instance, it's not here, it's not here. Assuming September 15, 2015, the company of Mabait paid 15,000 pesos for the salaries of employees. What's on debit, Nicole?
Salaries expense.
Nathan, what's on credit?
cash.
Nathan, what is the explanation?
To record salaries expense for the employee.
Or to record payment of salaries.
Salary.
It is suggested that you do not use the exact term like to record salaries expense. You don't have to use that. I mean, what's the intention of the transaction? That is to recognize that salaries have been paid to employees. So you can put the explanation as to record payment of salaries to employees. Another one. Paid a partial amount of the due to creditors. No. Paid a partial amount of what was owed to another company. Paid a partial amount of what was owed to another company. Nathan, what's on debit?
Accounts payable.
Accounts payable, correct. Nicole, what's on credit?
Cash.
Cash, correct. What's the explanation, Nicole?
To record. I don't know, sir. To record.
There is something important in the transaction that you should use. Going back to the transaction, ha?
To record.
Paid in partial an amount owed to another company.
To record the payment
What kind of payment?
of
Is it full payment?
half. Partial.
Partial. The term is partial. To record partial payment of liability. Or if the name of the company is there, to the company where you owed something, to record payment of liability to Mamakos Enterprises. So at least ba, even if you use the octothorpe in the exams, you know very well what the reason is behind a transaction. It can also be traced back to the list of transactions. The purpose of one good purpose as well for the explanation is, in case that list of transactions is not available, you have the explanation to remind you what that transaction was all about. So that's why explanations are there. So you have also a possibility, like that of the bottom part of the module, you have a possibility where you have a compound entry, a compound journal entry. This happens when a transaction involves at least 3 account titles. 3 or more account titles are involved. That means you have a compound entry. For instance, the example here, purchased motorcycle consisting 80,000. 30,000 was paid in cash. The remaining 50 was placed on account. So what will you put on debit? Of course, you'll recognize an equipment, which is the transportation equipment, the motorcycle. How was it paid? Cash was given out and accounts payable will be recognized. How many credit accounts? 2. 1 for cash, 1 for accounts payable. Plus the third account title, which is transportation equipment or the motorcycle, totaling to 3 account titles. That transaction then is a compound entry. Let's have an example. Purchase computer equipment by paying cash and issuing a payable. Nathan, what's on debit?
Computer equipment.
Nicole, what's on credit?
Cash. What, sir? Ano yung tanong?
Purchased a computer equipment by paying cash and issuing an accounts payable. What's on credit?
Cash and accounts payable, sir.
Okay, correct. What if the transaction is December 1? Mamakos invested cash and personal vehicle into the business, amounting to 500,000 in total. Nicole, what's on debit?
Capital.
Debit.
Ano, sir? Ay, ulit. Cash.
Mamakos invested cash and donated his personal vehicle into the business, amounting to 500,000 pesos. Debit, Nicole.
Cash.
Cash.
Sir, and cash and equipment.
Vehicle.
Yung equipment, sir.
It's a vehicle.
Ay, vehicle. Service vehicle.
And then on credit, Nathan, what will you put?
Nicole?
What will you put, Nathan, on the credit side?
Business capital.
Business capital.
Oh, capital.
It's the account title. What's the complete account title, Nathan? I mentioned about the name of the owner.
Oh, mabait kapital. Ah,
Mamakos, you're
mabait.
not listening.
Mamakos.
Mamakos Capital. Again, there's a possibility that you can have a compound entry or a single entry. You also have special journals. A special journal is a journal that is quite exclusive for a particular purpose. You may have a cash receipts journal. You may also have a cash disbursements journal. A cash disbursements journal is the opposite of a cash receipts journal. A cash receipts journal records collection of cash, while a cash disbursements journal involves records that which pertain to the release of cash. Once cash is used, you reflect it on the cash disbursements journal. If cash is received, you'll put it on the cash receipts journal. You also have a sales journal, which is used to record all sales on credit. That's also referred to as a sales on account journal. Then another type of journal is the purchase journal, which is used to record all purchases of inventory on credit or on account. Once the journalizing process is done, we proceed with the doing of the ledger, which is similar to what you did in the T skeleton. But if you look at the third page of module 2, you'll find there a more elaborate form of the journal, the ledger. You have a date, you have an item, you have the reference number, you have debit and credit, then the balance. That of course can be done. But you can go with the simple T. If you look at your notes, that the ledger is also referred to as the T account because the basic form of a ledger is like the letter T, meaning it shows what value is on the left side, on the debit side, and it also shows what value can be found on the right side. Ledgers, just like journals, can also have specific types, and we call them subsidiary ledgers. A ledger which is good for every account. So like what you have there is a subsidiary ledger for accounts payable. Assuming that accounts payable, remember the Fair Emporium? Remember Fair Emporium? I think that was for your prelims. Fair Emporium probably, I think was your prelims. No, midterms. Fair Emporium was for your midterms. There was one transaction there, one set of transactions that had two accounts payable T skeletons. If you wanted to combine these two into one T skeleton, you are creating a general ledger, all four accounts payable. But if when you created a T skeleton a ledger for Fair Emporium, that's a subsidiary ledger. If you created a T skeleton for Filipino Times, that's another subsidiary ledger. But combining the information from these two accounts payable T skeletons would constitute a general ledger. The same is actually applicable to accounts receivable. Assuming I'm the business owner. So, I performed services for Nathan Mamakos, but he did not pay me in cash. Still, I'll recognize an income. So what I'll acknowledge is accounts receivable Mamakos service income. And then I performed services to, no, it's, then I performed services to Nicole. Still, the payment was not in cash. So I'll recognize accounts receivable Golosino. So there's a subsidiary ledger for Nathan. There's a subsidiary ledger for Nicole's name. If I put together these values just into one T skeleton, I am actually maximizing a general ledger, which again tries to combine them. Questions so far? Questions? If there's none, let's do this. Let's do this. Let's have some activities. So what I'll do is to mention a transaction, and then I'd like you to put the transaction into a journal entry. Again, put that transaction into a journal entry. Have we had Henry Labasan?
Wala pa po.
Henry Labasan? Have we had Henry Labasan? Okay. So here's transaction 1. Let's put Henry Labasan on 2019. The month is October.
Basan?
Labasan, yes. I'll put the name in the chat box. So this is the name. By the way, that person named Henry Labasan is actually a person whose name appears in this book. At the same time, that person, Henry Labasan, was actually my accounting 1 teacher. He has actually contributed something into this book. That's why his name is found in this book. He's my accounting 1 teacher. And I have so much respect to Sir Henry Labasan. So again, let's put his transactions in the year 2019. The month is October. The month is October. Okay. Let's start. October 1. Deposited 350,000 in a bank in the name of the business. Deposited 350,000 in a bank account in the name of the business.
Magkano yung pera, sir? May sinabi ba ang pera, sir?
350. 350,000.
3. Hindi na maglalagay ng explanation, sir.
Please try to put an explanation. For now. I'd like to see how you're going to put explanations. But whenever you do the quarterly exam, explanations are not necessary. Huh? Let's make that clear. In the major exams, explanations are not necessary. Okay? Show your works to the screen.
Sir.
Show your works to the screen once you're done. May I see Nicole your work? Okay, wait to record investment of Labasan. Correct. Nathan? To record investment of Labasan. Nathan, it's already redundant, Nathan. What you said there is to record investment of Labasan capital. Investment is already telling you that there's capital.
Sir.
Nathan, I've told you already about this before. Be very careful with your choice of words. Okay, next. October 5. Transferred to the business personal photography equipment valued at 129,000. Again, transferred to the business personal photography equipment valued at 129,000. transferred to the business personal photography equipment valued at 129,000. If you're done, you show your transaction to the camera. Okay. Wait, are you sure, Nathan? Let me see it again. I'm not sure if that's correct. Again, Nathan, the transaction is transferred to the business personal photography equipment valued at 129,000.
Ano? Transfer. Ano ba?
Oh,
Ano kay transferred? Transferred, sir?
transferred to the business personal photography equipment valued at 129. Clue, was the equipment purchased?
No.
No.
Why were you using cash?
Personal use? May
If,
personal use ba na account, sir?
if it's not
Ay, personal.
purchased, listen to what happened. The owner transferred his personal photography equipment to the name of the business. What is the owner actually doing? Like, if I own this land and I give it to the business, what am I actually doing? Land is my form of,
Giving.
yes, I'm giving it to the business
Asset of
because land is my form of,
investment.
correct, Nathan. I'm investing land into this business. Therefore, if I transfer my personal equipment to the business, I'm actually giving
Wait.
Capital?
capital.
Additional, yeah, investment.
Yes, it's an additional investment.
Ah, this.
Uh, Before you continue doing that, just
Yes,
look
sir.
at that. Look at what happened on October 1 for a while, Nathan and Nicole. Look at what happened to October 1 again. We have 350,000 that was placed in a bank account for the business. The same concept applies of transferring that amount of cash. Who owns that amount of cash? Henry Labasan. But Henry Labasan transferred that amount into the name of the business because cash turned into capital. The same thing has happened to this personal photography equipment. It
Mm.
was turned into a capital. This as this equipment has now been placed under the name of the business. Go, carry on, carry on. October 5, go.
Labasan capital din.
May I see, may I see? There, okay. Good, Nicole. Nathan, your work? Okay, correct, correct. Let's go now to October 8, purchase office equipment for cash. Purchase of office equipment for cash.
Magkano yung pera, sir?
54,000. 54,000. Transactions, show your journal entries. Nicole, the plural of equipment remains to be equipment.
Equipment. Joke.
Nathan, I can see it properly.
Tanggal.
To record payment of office equipment. Okay. Payment or purchase of office equipment. Correct. Next. Purchase. Label it as October 12. October 12. Purchase photography supplies on credit. 21,000. Purchase photography supplies on credit. 21,000. Purchase photography supplies on credit, 21,000.
What's the amount, sir?
21,000. Photography supplies are payable, to record supplies and accounts payable, to record purchase supplies on account. To record, Nathan, I can see your explanation, Nathan. To record, what is that? Purchase of, to record purchase of photography supplies. Is that your explanation? I'd like you to try to learn from the explanation provided by Nicole. Nicole, can you show your explanation again? Look, Nathan, to record the purchase of supplies on account. On account, thank you, Nicole. On account is an indicator that the purchase is not made through cash, but on account. That is why you are recognizing accounts payable. Next. Received October 13. October 13. Received cash for services performed. 11,400. Received cash for services performed. Value is 11,400. Again, 11,400. 11,400. Ready? October 13, let me see. Cash, service income. Okay, correct. 11, to record the receiving. Or Nicole, you can simplify the explanation as to record receipt of cash for services performed. Or you can do it this way,
To
to
record
record cash as revenue.
as revenue. Okay, sir.
You can also use that kind of reason, Nathan. Di ba they mean the same thing? To record
Mm.
receipt of cash for services performed, for revenue. To record cash as revenue. Meaning, when whoever reads that journal entry will be told that the receipt of cash was in the performance of services. Nathan, may I see your journal entries?
Yes, sir. Tanawa po ako yun.
Siri spoke for a while. I don't know what happened to Siri. Wait. Cash service income. Okay. Next. October 17. October 17. Build customers for portraits. Build customers
What, sir?
for portraits. Henry Labasan is doing a photography and portrait studio. So on October 17, build customers for portraits. 22,500. Again, build customers for portraits. 22,500.
Value, sir? 24,000.
22,500. Okay, correct. To record. Hey, why are you recording cash, Nicole? You look at your reason. To
Service
record
income.
cash.
On account man, sir.
To record
Paano
service
ba? Sir,
performed on
paano ba,
account.
sir?
You can use this reason. To record services performed on account. Because services or to record revenue on account. You can also use that. To record revenue on account. Because revenue has not been collected yet. But you have already recognized revenue. To record revenue
Okay,
on
sir.
account. Nathan,
Thank
journal
you.
entries. Wait, where is it? I can't see.
Yeah.
Accounts legal, okay. To record services performed on account. Okay, correct. Let's go now to October 19. Listen carefully. October 19, paid 50% of the supplies purchased on October 12. Paid
Only 12.
50% of the supplies purchased on October 12. Again, paid 50% of the supplies purchased on October 12.
50%, sir, no? Okay.
Yes. Paid 50% of the supplies purchased on October 12.
Okay.
So far in my screen, thank you for always having your camera on, Jeremiah.
Go, closer, Nicole.
Roman, Lian Genova,
Okay, wait. Let explanation.
Joanna, Cassie, Austin, Antirima, Kira, Chloe, Vanessa, and
Nicole, you can state the reason as to record partial payment of account made on October 12.
it gives me inspiration.
The same goes with you, Nathan. to record partial payment of account made on October 12.
See.
But the account titles amount may see.
Wait lang. Two.
So, magaling sa pagkala kung sa naiwan na to, let's follow instructions there. So, let's move on.
Nathan.
Yes, sir. May...
Wait. I can see. There. Okay. Correct. Next, paid electricity bill for October. Paid electricity bill for October at 3,600. Paid electricity bill for October at 3,600. This is on October 25 now. October 25. Paid electricity bill for October at 3,600.
So, encourage, convince, persuade.
Record expense. To record payment of cash for electricity or to record expense. To record expense for electricity. To record
Payment for electricity.
correct. To record payment of electricity expense or to record payment of electricity. To record. Nathan, I can see Nathan. Not Nathan, do not call it electricity bill expense. Electricity expense, not electricity bill expense. Okay, let's go to October 26. October 26, paid the telephone bill for October 2,100. Paid the telephone bill. October 26, paid the telephone bill for October 2,100.
Alin dyan sa mga salitang yan, hindi nyo naiintindihan? Halimbawa, sa tuliwala dyan, talakay natin. I think lahat naman dyan ay kaya unawain ang ating matalinong utak. Kaya, ma'am, mahirap, ma'am. Kaya, mahirap. Ha? Kaya, salamat Jehovah. I like this verse.
Okay.
Lahat ng mga ginagamit natin sa pangnikaya. Like,
Okay, correct.
paano niya gagawin kung sa Bisaya tayo bitaw? Tinuod bitaw. Lagi.
Nathan, your work.
Dali na ba? Bani ko ba? Tanaw na to. Lagi. Oh. Lagi.
Nathan?
Lagi. That is pangnikaya. We're trying to persuade people to believe us.
What happened, Nathan?
Ingon, ikaw mo. Oh, yan.
Again, sorry? I can't hear you, Nathan.
So, give me a line.
What happened here? Why can't I hear you properly?
Bakit? Nag-English mo sa bahay ngayon?
I can't. Nicole, can you hear Nathan clearly?
Ayan, oh.
Can you hear
No,
me
sir.
clearly, Nicole? Oh, there, oh. Your audio, Nathan, is different from the audio of Nicole.
Yes.
Nagsisalita ng Pilipino na sa bahay. Kami, ma'am. Bilang.
What happened? I can't hear you clearly. I can hear you still, Nathan, but I know you're trying to say something. No? There's none, Nicole, no? There's none.
Nawala yung audio. Yes, sir.
No, his audio is still here. But I mean, because he can still mute or unmute himself. We just can't hear anything from Nathan. Try to say something, Nathan.
Narinig naman.
Huh?
Hello.
It's not as loud as
Humina.
earlier. Okay, Nathan, just show your answer.
That is my line at the mama.
Where?
Sino?
Okay. I like the term used by Nathan. Nicole, sometimes the word telephone expense might not be an acceptable account title.
Oh.
So the more appropriate term is telecommunications expense. So telecommunications expense. Next, October 28. Let's go now to October 28. Received payments from the customers billed on October 17. 7,500. Again, received payments from the customers billed on October 17. 7,500. Received payments from the customers billed on October 17. 7,500. Ready now? Take note, the amount on October 28 is 7,500. Nicole? To record. Hala, to record cash as revenue. That's not what really happened, Nicole. To record
To
receipt
record
of
cash.
cash
Partial.
as partial, or to record partial
Mali pala.
settlement of revenue. Wait, how do we term this? To record cash as to record receipt of cash as partial payment of revenue.
But sir, to
Or
record
to record
receipt
cash as,
of cash.
because receivables already recognized revenue. To record cash, to record receipt of cash to settle. Yeah, I think we can agree that the explanation can be to record receipt of cash to settle customers' receivables. We can agree that that's the idea behind there.
To record receipt of
Nathan, your answer?
Dali na pa, guys, mo ang dali na, maliit na ta. Dali na. Dali na, dito ka magbahay. Selling something.
Nathan, your answer?
Oh, see? Oh,
Okay. Next, October 29. Paid salaries to personnel. Paid salaries to personnel. 12,000 pesos. Paid salaries to personnel. 12,000 pesos. Again, the value is 12,000 pesos.
see? Covered natin.
12,000.
Pesos. So,
12,000 pesos. Oh, this sir.
so what are your journal entries? Okay, correct. To record payment of salary. Wait. What did you say, Nathan? To record payment of?
Salaries.
I thought the word expense is there.
Salaries expense.
To record payment of salaries. That will do.
Like once.
To record payment of salaries. Or to record payment of salaries to employees or to personnel. Nicole, your answer? I haven't seen your answer yet. Cash, okay. The last one, October 31. October 31, withdrew 16,000 from the business for a personal emergency. Withdrew 16,000 from the business for a personal emergency. Again, withdrew 16,000 from the business for a personal emergency. So Nathan, Nicole, journal entries. Again, withdrew 16,000 from the business for a personal emergency. Okay, correct. Oh, I like that explanation, Nicole, to record withdrawal of cash. Why is it necessary that Nicole emphasized that the withdrawal is of cash? It's possible that perhaps the vehicle will be withdrawn or equipment will be withdrawn. That's still a possibility. For as long as it was given as an investment or capital, there's a chance that it can be withdrawn by the owner. Nathan, your answer? Okay, correct. By the way, please do not be surprised if I will not anymore let you work on the special journals. You will not anymore have to work on the special journals. We can just go through again the process of journalizing. And I'd like to give this as an assignment to you. By Thursday, you should be ready with the T skeletons or with the ledgers. Just the general ledger. Just the general ledger. However,
May activity, sir.
However, on Thursday, this is not really the ledger that I'd ask you to make. It's not this, wait. It's not this ledger that I'm asking you to make. No, not this. You can just continue with the T. Remember the T? Just use that. Just use that T account analysis. And be sure that on Thursday, no, by Thursday, all of these should be ready. So on Thursday, I'll just ask these information from you. And perhaps later on, if time allows, we can have another activity. Questions, Nathan, Nicole? Questions, Nicole?
Yes, sir. Wala po.
If there's none, that'll be all for this afternoon. Goodbye and thank you.
Goodbye and